Hey there, welcome to the Working Actor on Casting Workbook. I'm Natasha Gargiulo, your host, and this episode is going to be a special one. All of them are special, but if you are a working actor and you have always wanted to get your resume or demo in front of Stephanie Gorin, today is the episode where you are going to hear right from her about what all of the inside scoop is on the film and television industry and how you can perfect your talent as an actor. We are so thrilled to welcome Stephanie Gorin back to the Working Actor on Casting Workbook. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Natasha. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to always have you because you are the most sought after casting director in Canada. You have over 25 years experience in this industry. You have worked on a plethora of film, television, and stage productions. And your insight on how this industry works and how actors can perfect their craft is really valuable. So we're really happy to have you here on The Working Actor again.
Well, that's very nice of you. And I don't think I'm the most sought after. I think there are many that are sought after, but it's very kind of you to say.
Okay, well, we think you're sought after, right?
Well, you sought after me.
You're
And
right.
here I am.
You're right. You're right. You're an Emmy Award winner, an Artios winner as well. There's been so much success throughout your career. And the last time we spoke on The Working Actor was during the pandemic, where things were at a standstill. And actors were trying to figure out how to navigate, the industry and the environment. Now we're out of the pandemic. What have you noticed that has changed for the better for actors in this environment?
I think, believe it or not, I think uh, as much as it's great to be in the room and we do get to do that. I think how actors have learned how to self-tape
Yeah.
and how to make their tapes look good and knowing how, sometimes I'd have an actor in the room who was new and I was trying to help them get started and you'd have to do like 8 takes. And, those room rentals were extremely expensive, plus the cameraman and all the rest. And a lot of times you didn't have that, or, you could only do 2 passes or your director only wanted one. So now, because actors have so many choices on the way they want to do a scene, they can spend the time redoing it, watch it themselves and think, or maybe even their agent will weigh in, hey, I'm really happy with this.
Yeah.
Because you don't, you can get rid of those nerves because you're doing it in front of the camera by yourself, or hopefully with a reader or a friend who's reading with you, and you can produce a good tape. So I've seen a lot of pretty great self tapes. And the other thing that I think has helped is, again, because of budget constraints. It used to be, unless we're doing a pilot where you're seeing as many people as you can all across the country, if you're lucky, you might have time to see, 10 people.
Mhm.
And, because that would need quite a budget in the room. Now I see an average of 25 to 30 per role
Wow.
because it's so much quicker. You're not doing the in and out of the room and all the rest, and you can watch those tapes. And then if they send you 2 takes of it, you can pick the best one or show both if they're both interesting, for example.
Yeah. A
So
lot of actors, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, for me, that's a good thing. I love that, and watching how much actors have progressed as well that
Yeah,
way.
for sure. But a lot of actors do miss that in-person audition.
Mm.
And I guess the people who really do get that in-person audition is when you know that they really want to see you because they're interested in your talent, right?
Well, no, not yes and no. I have some shows. I mean, if you think about it, one of the creators that I work with, Nick Santura, he's never in. He works out of the States, right? And he's constantly writing, and he's got like 3 series on the go. So what he sees, and this is what I used to do when I was in the room. I would also watch back or when the actor was in the room, I'd watch them, but often I'd watch it on the monitor too because that's what they're seeing, and people can often look a little different or on the screen as opposed to when we're doing theater or anything else. So he's seeing on the screen exactly what he wants to see eventually on the screen. So um, he's not necessarily going to be in the room, and quite often I find that the recalls I have had in person, they've been over Zoom because I think producers and directors have learned that they can be anywhere,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so, and you can involve everyone. So suddenly you've got, all the networks or the studio, whatever, from the States. You've got people from this side of the country, that side of the country, and they're all watching a recall on Zoom.
Your career is so inspiring and obviously so successful. I'm wondering, when did you realize that you had a talent for spotting talent?
Um, Gee, that is a good question when I realized I might be good. I mean, I was kind of guided by it. I was an actor and for about 5 years, and I was in a bad car accident on the way to the show. And I had started working like every actor does, you're either waitering or this. I had started working with Mervish Productions whenever I was free. I worked as an ASM on one show because I had stage managed in Britain for a year and a half. And then Ernie Schwartz at Mervish at the time asked me to read with the actors. And also I became, like an assistant casting person. We didn't call me that at the time. And so I learned a lot from being in those rooms like that with those actors and watching the different things the directors would say. And then I got an opportunity eventually after assisting many for 2 full years of I think you learn by watching. You also learn because, if you've worked as an actor and you studied as an actor or as a music theater performer, whatever kind of study you have that background so you can empathize with actors because you've been there and you can. And so a lot of it I do by feel. I guess the first time I really felt that I felt like I knew what I was doing with music theater because, I'd had the most training in that. But was when I was quite young and I was doing a pilot with someone who said, I would really like you to come down and work for us in the States. He said, you have a really good eye. And I never really thought about it as having a good eye until he told me that. And that was probably maybe 8 years into my career. I loved it and I felt that I did well, but I didn't know that I actually had that instinctual eye, I suppose, or no
Yeah.
one had actually expressed it to me until that point.
So when you talk about this instinctual eye, right? What does it see? What stands out to you when you do see someone audition for you or you are looking through tapes that makes you say, oh, that's the one?
Well, I don't think there's ever just that's the one for the most part. There's a lot of really good actors out there. And so I think you're looking for choices. Sometimes in a very rare case, it might be, oh, okay, this person is my favorite for the role. But, casting directors don't just present one. We present, and, anyone who's good, you might get a producer who says, you know what, I want to see your top 5. But anyone else, please keep them. And if I don't see someone in that batch that I think is right, then I will look at who else you have to offer. Or sometimes I'll show more. I mean, it depends on the show. We tend to show more than that. So I don't know. I think being grounded, being connected to the material, that's the most important thing, is to really believe what the person's saying. And if they are kind of a character, they still have to be very grounded in that character as opposed to putting on a character, you
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, that's
And
good advice.
yeah, I suppose that would be the simplest way to put it.
Yeah, you've worked on so many projects. The Apprentice right now, which is out and people can watch it, which is getting some great reviews. Fargo, Aladdin, all of these great, successful either musicals, TV series, or films. What stands out to you when you look at your resume that really was a defining moment for you, where you said, "Yeah, this I'm really great at this, and I'm really proud of this project."
It's I love this business, so that's a hard question for me to answer as one show. I adored my first chance of working on Miss Saigon, where I was brought on as the Canadian on that, because we did open calls and we found all kinds of new talent. That's theater, of course, but that was quite exciting. I've worked on a lot. As you go through the years, it's like an actor, every show is different or interesting, whether I'm doing a horror movie or I'm doing Disney or I'm doing an action or a drama, whatever that may be. So, I mean, there are certain shows that really, of course, stick out to you, that are quite special. I loved working on the film Race and giving an opportunity to new actors who hadn't had an opportunity before. And Stephen James ended up getting the lead for that because John Boyega had dropped out. And luckily someone had called me, recommended me, and I sent them two actors I thought could be right for the role for the lead, and they liked both of them. It was hard for them to decide, and so that was very exciting. Fargo, of course, getting on Fargo, everybody knows the movie, and reading those first scripts, I just felt like that was a gift. I think hopefully you do the business because you enjoy it,
Mhm.
versus just making money, because I work on a lot of shows too that are very, very low budget,
Yeah.
as well, like indie features, but they can be quite wonderful. So for me at this point, it's about the people that I
Mm.
work with, and the writing. If the writing is great, that's important to me. I think what I loved, and of course Fargo, I knew immediately reading it, oh my God, I might actually be casting a show that could win an Emmy because it was that good. So, if you get the gift of great writing, that's going to help your actors. There's nothing like an actor getting something that's really, really well written, that
Mm.
they don't have to try to make it work
Yeah.
because the writing isn't quite there, or it doesn't quite fit them. And I have to say, Apprentice, which was basically a huge cast and a fairly low budget Canadian wise.
Oh,
Um,
really?
I'm very proud of all the Canadians and how wonderful they were in the parts, and how much they resembled the real people, and how they embodied those characters and felt very real. So I'm very proud of that project as well. There's a lot of them that I'm very proud of, to be honest. So
I mean, what's
I enjoy it. That's why I'm still doing it.
right? Do what you love, right? And then it doesn't feel like a day of work at all when you're doing what you love, obviously. But what's that feeling like when you're sitting in a theater and you're seeing all of your work up on the big screen, and you're seeing the actors that you've cast and the people that you are responsible for seeing up there? What does that feel like?
Joy,
Hmm.
just joy. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you when you're approaching a new project, how do you approach it with casting? Does it differ between casting for a musical or casting for a TV series or film? Is there a difference?
Um, I mean, stylistically, there's a difference. So, and I've seen a lot of good actors who don't necessarily get the tone, right? They don't get the quirkiness of the comedy, and it's played so dramatically. And then someone else may play it so dramatically that it actually is funny. So, you're looking for the different, if someone can get the tone. When you're casting musicals, it's different. You're looking for people who can sing, who can act. Usually they have to dance or at least move. They have to have the right range. So you're doing a lot of exploring in order to find the right people, and it's a lot of work. I mean, sometimes like Lion King, a lot of those performers had 8 auditions, you know, because between the initial one and then getting the material, and oh, maybe they could be this too, and then trying that, and then working with the puppets. You
Yes.
can't learn how to be proficient with those puppets if you are,
Yeah.
saying playing a Timon or a Zazu. You can't do that quickly. Or somebody who's playing Simba or Nala, to negotiate those high notes and get the right kind of tones you're looking for. And then they go through the dance calls, and then they have to go through the associates, and then they go through the finals, and then they go through another movement call. So, that's a long process.
Yes.
But I think it's enjoyable for them for the most part, hopefully. Otherwise, most of them would have quit by now, I think.
It's such a long process, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's such a long process, and you really have to love what you're doing, and you really, like you said,
Mhm.
you have to understand and be connected, right? And you said you started off as an actor, and now you are this amazing casting director. What do you know now about acting that you didn't know when you started, and that you could share with the actors who are tuning in so that they don't make these common mistakes anymore?
The most important thing is to try and, even though they say you don't have to memorize, unless you're like brilliant with holding it in hand, certainly for TV film, it's best if you can learn it well, because I find people who've learned it well are much more connected to it.
Right.
At least the first page and the last page, at least, because if you're glancing off, and if it's, some people are very proficient at being able to do it without knowing it perfectly. But I find that they have a better ease, at least if they get a call back, and then they can also play around with it a bit if it's the kind of show where the director says, can you ease it up or make it more of your own, that kind of thing. So I think That's the most important thing. Don't worry about dressing for the part or doing those kind of things, you know. Um, Comedy doesn't come from the props that you bring with you to an audition. You know, if you feel that you're certainly in terms of like if there's a scene with a cell phone, using that cell phone is actually probably going to make the thing look more natural at times, perhaps, you know. There's a lot of different tricks. I don't need people watching. I'm not saying this to sell it, but you know, Naomi and I made the casting room, which had featured all the different mistakes that people used to do. I think that people are much more savvy now, like, you know, using a photo that was so touched up, it didn't look anything like them. And I think nowadays something much more natural. In my time, it wouldn't have been that way. It
Mm.
would have been, you know, how
Oh,
much perfect lighting and makeup can you wear in order to
right,
take your photo, right?
right,
You
right.
know, so that kind of thing. So, and you know, don't come in making excuses. If you're really sick and you are coming into the room, it's best not to come in, I think, you know. And nowadays you can tape. If someone isn't feeling good, you know, you can wait and say, hey, I'm not feeling well. Can I try this out tomorrow and send a tape or whatever that. I think the world is different in that way, that people are more forgiving,
Yes.
you know, after everything we've all been through.
Absolutely. I do have a question though about self-taping. Sometimes, you're given a deadline that it's got to be submitted before 12 noon on Monday. Um,
Mhm.
do you judge in any way if people will send in a tape at 11:30? Does that have an impression on you, a negative impression on you if they're getting it in right by the deadline?
You mean before? No, no, not at
No.
all. I
Okay.
think the only thing you have to watch, and I know some of the agents, you know, will give a deadline. The agent will give an earlier deadline because, of course, they got to upload a bunch of people.
Right.
Um, I think that no, that doesn't bother me at all. The only thing you have to watch as an actor is if it's late.
Right.
You know, if it's quite late, if there's a reason that we've given the deadline, like, you know, because we know they're going to have to be in wardrobe or there's something different about it, you know, within the next week, which is pretty soon in the timeline of getting this to the producers, the director, and then getting them approved to, you know, studio or network. If you put it in late and the first everything is in, you know, I might have sent the first round off. So if
Right.
I'm asking it for noon, depending on the number of categories, it may be that I'm watching all day and I have to send it in on Tuesday. Or it may be that I'm sending it in Tuesday evening if there's like, you know, 20 roles or something that we're doing. So it could be that you miss out and it's already gone in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the only thing you have to be careful about. But I think, you know, if you're really keen and you feel you're right for it and you're going to have it a little late, you know, write to your agent and say, hey, could you please ask if I could have an extra couple of hours? I've, you know, run into some personal issues, but I'm going to have it ready by this time. And quite often agents will write in and I will tell them the truth. They'll say, you know what? I can't wait till tomorrow because I have to present at 5 tonight, or yes, it's okay. Because I can't have, if I wanted the timing to be 10 the next day, I'd have everybody coming at 10 and I'll never get through all the viewing.
Mhm.
I have to do all the viewing as well, right? So.
Right. We were talking about how people are more like technologically savvy these days and how we're better with the use of technology on making our demo reels look good or our resumes. What's important to you when you receive an actor's resume?
Um, well, I like to see if, you know, obviously what they've been doing. I think that's important. I always look at if they don't have a lot on their resume or I don't know them that well, I often look at their training and not just if to me, I mean, there are obviously some great universities and colleges, of course there are. I mean, we know them, right?
Right.
But there are also, you know, great teachers around, right? A lot of different studios that are terrific and have really good teachers. So if you see they're continuing or they're working with good teachers, and if you're doing a comedy that they've had Second City training or that type of thing, you know, which is easy enough to pick up classes here and there, I look for anything to do with training as well. Sometimes it's special skills, like the thing I'm doing an Indigenous film right now, which is hockey players. So of course I'm looking to see if they got any hockey on there. Can they
Right.
skate? You know, that kind of thing. So
That shouldn't be difficult, especially in Canada, to find people who play hockey. So, what are you working on right now? You're talking about this Indigenous project. What are you looking forward to that you can tell us about that you're working on?
Well, Lion King's about to open.
Exciting.
So, which is a amazing, amazing cast, and that was a lot of work getting that together, and it's exciting, and I can't wait to see it. So, um, well, the problem is that I'm in a little bit of a lull at the moment. I am working on this, again, it's funny because hockey things. This comedy series called Smudge the Blades, and a comedy film called Smudge the Blades, and I'm also working on a comedy web series, which is to do with hockey as well. So it's very funny to have two different things. One of them is soon, one of them is not till the spring. And then I do have three other shows coming, which I'm not allowed to say.
Oh, I knew you were going
I'm
to say that.
sorry.
I knew
Yeah,
it. And the
I
ones that you're not allowed to say are probably the big, huge Hollywood productions with the big stars, and it's going to be enormous and a box office hit. Correct?
yeah.
Stephanie, there's just, this has been a great half hour with you on the working actor. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge and your tips and your expertise on how working actors can become better at their craft. So thank you so much for making the time, and good luck with all of the work and all of the projects that you have ahead of you.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. I appreciate
Thank
you
you
having
so
me.
much. We appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.